Mr. McCullough, thank you for stopping by for this Civics House interview, sir.
Thank you for having me. Anything that we can do to educate North Carolinians about these judicial races, I'm all for.
Indeed, sir. All right, our first question is, what do you believe to be the role of the judiciary? If elected, how will your understanding of your role manifest in your adjudication?
Well, as you know, I've been a judge for 8 years, from 2001 through 2008, so I think I have demonstrated that I understand the role, and no one would ever have called me a judicial activist or anything like that, and if anybody would apply a term to me, it would be fair, even-handed, and a person who understood judicial restraint. And I think that that would be how I would handle my role, the same way I did.
Great. And our second question, sir. What impact do you feel the recent SBI issue will have on the efficacy of our judicial system? Should this cause North Carolinians to reconsider their position on the death penalty?
I don't think it has any real direct bearing on the death penalty, because most of these problems were in other cases, actually. The Greg Taylor case was perhaps an exception, but it is going to have a tremendous impact for the next probably 4 or 5 years. While the SBI digs itself out of this situation, it's going to require renewed leadership and dedication on the part of the Attorney General and the SBI. But it's going to cause a lot of trouble in the courts, because defense attorneys are now going to be dubious of findings that they once trusted. And they're going to also probably have to hire outside experts. And that's going to impact the budget of the courts a little bit, because it's going to be hard for the judges to deny a defendant the right to hire an expert when we've already had proven situations with particular lab results being flawed or covered up.
Yes, sir. Okay, well, now, third question. What are your thoughts on judicial offices being made nonpartisan and about publicly financing appellate court races?
Well, I have been through both processes. I was elected in 2000 when you had your Republican designee next to your name, and I've now been through the process where you have no designation behind your name, and I have found that they tend to be fairly partisan no matter which way you go. I had an opponent who was closely aligned with the presidential campaign. I was not so closely aligned and tried to play it more as a nonpartisan race, and I was overwhelmed in 2008 by a partisan tide, you could say. I mean, that's just a fact if you look back at the way the race develops. I believe in the concept of judges being nonpartisan, but I think your party also plays a role, because it should endorse those judges who you believe will best effect the rule of law the way most North Carolinians want it. So you have to have a balance. And as far as the public financing goes, that's a difficult issue. And in the best of all worlds, you'd say there shouldn't be public financing of races if people do that, but that puts judges in a more awkward position than it puts legislators. So on balance, I think public financing is probably good for North Carolina in some ways, but it has to be kept in perspective.
Yes, sir. All right. And our last question. Why should North Carolina elect you to be the next judicial leader of our judicial system?
Well, I have been in the judicial system for 8 years, as I said, and I have over 800 opinions. I think the members of the bench and bar know who I am, and would say that if Doug McCullough were to go back on the bench, it would be a good thing for the people of North Carolina. The people invested a good bit in me by allowing me to be their judge for 8 years. I received a lot of training at state expense, and if you sweep that training away, you have basically wasted your investment, and that's not a good thing, whether it's in business or whether it's in government. But I have been, I believe, my record shows me to have been a fair-minded person. I was a former federal prosecutor, yet I was not considered to be one side or the other. I was impartial, and there are judicial opinions to back that up. And that, I think, is what you want in a judge, a fair, impartial person who will decide cases based on the law. If they elect me, that's what they'll get.
Judge McCullough, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.